Hi everyone, and welcome to the first biology lesson on body systems. Today's first lesson is on cells, tissues, organs and organ systems. For this lesson you are going to need a pen and some paper. So if you do not have these with you now, you need to go and find some and pause the video. Today's challenge is to be able to describe how some specialised cells are adapted to their function, and the aspire is to be able to explain how multicellular organisms are organised. Today's starter should be something that you're all quite familiar with. You should have labelled these in the past. So in front of you there's an animal and a plant cell. And I would like you to be able to label the following parts of the animal and plant cell. What I would like you to do with your pen and paper now is write numbers 1 to 8 and label those cells. And then what I would like you to do, if you can, is to write down the function. So that is the job that each of those individual parts of a cell does. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. Off you go. Okay, that's time up. What we're going to do now is we're going to go through and mark. Okay, so the answers that you should have, number 1, you should have labelled as a cell membrane. This controls the movement of substances into and out of the cell. Number 2, you should have labelled as the cytoplasm. This is the jelly-like substance where chemical reactions happen. Number 3, you should have labelled as the nucleus. This carries genetic information and controls what happens inside the cell. Number 4, you should have labelled as the ribosomes. This is where proteins are made. Number 5, you should have labelled as the mitochondria, where respiration happens. Number 6 should be labelled as the chloroplasts, where photosynthesis occurs. Number 7 is a vacuole. This contains a liquid called cell sap, which keeps the cell firm. And number 8, you should have labelled as the cell wall, which is made up of a substance called cellulose, which supports the cell. So, cells are the basic building blocks of all animals and plants. Cells are so small, to be able to see them, you are going to need to use a light microscope. Human beings are described as multicellular organisms. This means that we are made up of lots of different types of cells, not just one type of cell. And these types of cells are specialised. And this means that they have a special adaptation that makes them adapted to their function, to their job. And that's so that they can share out the processes of life. So they work together like a team to support the different processes that happen inside an organism. Below are some diagrams of specialised cells. These may be familiar to you from prior learning. What I would like you to do is get your pen and paper, and I would like you to write down what you think they are. I'm going to give you a little hint. 2 of them you will find in an animal, and 1 of them you will find in a plant. I'm going to give you 30 seconds starting from now. Okay, so the answers that you should have written down on your sheet of paper should be a red blood cell, which you'll find in an animal, a root hair cell, which you will find in a plant, and a sperm cell, which you will also find in an animal. So looking at these cells in a little bit more detail. So red blood cells. Their job inside our blood is to carry oxygen around our body, and they contain a red pigment called haemoglobin, which the oxygen binds to. That means it sticks to it. Now, red blood cells are a little bit different than most cells because they have no nucleus. What I would like you to do now is have a little think and write down why you think it's useful that this red blood cell does not have any nucleus. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. The reason why our red blood cells have no nucleus is because if they have no nucleus, it means that there is more room inside the cell, there's more space. And if there's more space, it means that more oxygen can fit onto the red blood cell to be carried around the body for respiration. The next specialised cell I'd like to talk about is a root hair cell. Root hair cells are found in the roots of all plants, and their job is to absorb water and minerals from the soil. What I would like you to do, again, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds, is I would like you to write on your sheet of paper how you think that they are adapted to be able to absorb as much water and minerals from the soil. A little hint here is look at the shape. So 30 seconds, off you go. So root hair cells are adapted because they have a large surface area to absorb more water and minerals. If you look at the shape of the root hair cell, you can see that it's got a big projection on the right hand side. And by having all that extra surface, it means that then that root hair cell can absorb as much water and minerals into it as it possibly can. So the next specialised cell we're going to look at in a little bit more detail is a sperm cell. And a sperm cell's job is to carry the father's DNA to the female egg so that they can join, which the proper biological term that we use is fuse, with it during fertilisation. So looking at a sperm cell, again, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. I would like you to think and write down how you think that a sperm cell is adapted to be able to reach the egg. 30 seconds, off you go. Right, so hopefully the thing that everybody has written down is that the sperm's adaptation is that it has a long tail, and that enables the sperm to be able to swim towards the egg. Also, from prior learning, some of you may be able to remember that the head of the sperm contains enzymes. And this is a special substance that enables the sperm to penetrate the egg and for fertilization then to occur. Okay, the next task that I would like you to do for me is, again using your pen and paper, I would like you to put the following parts in order from the least complex to the most complex. So you have a cell, an organism, tissue, an organ system, and an organ. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds to put these in that order. Okay, so multicellular organisms, such as ourselves, are organised into increasingly complex parts. So we are made up, the least complex part of us are cells, and these specialised cells are grouped together to make a tissue. Many tissues are grouped together to make an organ. There are many organs within an organ system, and an organ system, many of them together will make up an organism. So we mentioned earlier that cells are the basic building blocks of all animals and plants, and that animal cells and plant cells can make something called a tissue. Now, a living tissue is made up from a group of cells which has a similar structure and function, which all work together to do a particular job within the body. And here are some examples of tissues. So muscle is a tissue, the lining of the intestine, the lining of the lungs, and in plants, xylem. So xylem tissue inside a plant are the tubes that carry water. An organ is then something that is made up from a group of different tissues which all work together to do a particular job. And here are some examples of organs. Quite a few of these will be very familiar to you. So the heart, lung, stomach, brain, and in a plant, leaf and a root. An organ system is made up from a group of different organs, which all work together to do a particular job. Inside us, we have lots of different organ systems. What I would like you to do now is I would like you to look at these 6 organ systems. I'm going to give you a minute and a half. Have a good look at them and write down what organ systems you think they are. Off you go. So the first organ system you should have labelled on the left is the circulatory system. This is made up of the heart and blood vessels such as arteries, veins and capillaries. The next organ system is the nervous system, and this is comprised of the brain, the spinal cord and the nerves. The next organ system is the respiratory system, which is made up of the lungs and the trachea. The next organ system is the digestive system, which is made up of the esophagus, the stomach, the liver, the pancreas, the small and the large intestines. The next organ system is the skeletal system, which is made up of bones. And the last organ system is the muscular system, which is made up of muscles. So, the lesson summary, which I would all like you to write down, is that cells are the basic building blocks of all animals and plants. Humans are multicellular. They are made up of many types of cells that are specialised. Specialised cells are adapted to do a specific job within the body. Tissues are made up of groups of cells which work together to do a certain job. A group of tissues make an organ, and a group of organs make an organ system. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to write this down. If you need any more time, please pause the video. So the last thing to do today now is to go and complete the Google quiz. This is made up of lots of multiple choice questions. Please, where it says to select 3, that you select 3, or if it selects 2, select 2. And the last question is a bit of a research task. So you are going to need to use the internet to find the answers for that question. Thank you. Bye.